What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, Ben Ballion, back with another episode of the Sports Pod, and today is parts 24 and 25 of the 82-part series, where I'm going to be recapping all the Knicks games left to play this season. And the last couple games, they had a tough back-to-back out west, starting off in Phoenix, where Brunson had a career-high 50 points, where he was unconscious, he could not miss. And then the next night, the fortunes changed and the tides changed as they lost to the Clippers by 22. So I'll recap both of those games in this episode. Roll the intro.
For three. Bang! That ball is out of here! Out of here! Iguodala to Curry. Back to Iguodala. Up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James! LeBron James with the rejection.
Right into the episode. Starting it off with the game that started this back-to-back against the Phoenix Suns on the road. The second time that the Suns' big three was playing together. And that only lasted for 4.5 minutes. Because Bradley Beal messed up his ankle. He twisted it, shooting a jumper. He landed on Dante DiVincenzo's heel. DiVincenzo was called for a flagrant one, but it was a basketball play. And DiVincenzo, at least I think, didn't have any bad intentions by doing that and getting in Beal's landing area. So Beal only has only played a couple games this year. And let's see, is he playing today? Bradley Beal. He's not in the lineup today. Grayson Allen's starting over him, or starting in place of him. So that's a big loss for the Suns. He's their third option. And it's also a big loss because they haven't had time to gel. They've played 2 games together, and not even that, barely that. They only started the second game, and they've lost both of them. The Nets came in there on Wednesday night, and they beat the Suns, which I was surprised by. I don't think the Nets are a terrible team, but I definitely think that the Suns are better than them, and I do think that it's just that the Suns' big three hasn't had time to figure out how they're gonna work together, and even just the rotation in general. Who's gonna be the defender? Who's gonna guard the other team's best player? Who's gonna be the facilitator? Who's gonna do this? Who's gonna do that? And it all takes time. So with time, that'll come. But right now, it's not looking like they're gonna have a lot of time to figure out how to play with each other because they keep getting hurt. And that was the problem coming into this. Everybody knew it. Bradley Beal's an injury-prone guy, and Kevin Durant's, I don't know. I don't even know if he's injury-prone. He just misses a lot of games every year. And somebody who's normally injury-prone but hasn't missed a game this year, which I was surprised when I saw it, Kawhi Leonard. And him and the Clippers destroyed the Knicks last night, beat them by 22 points. But I want to stay with the Suns game because I like talking about the positive things more than the negatives. I'll talk about the negatives if I have to, but that's only when I just have to say it how it is and not sugarcoat it. But for this one, Brunson, the Brunson burner, set a career high with 50 points. And he did not miss a shot in the second half. The best Knicks shooting game since Latrell Sprewell went 9 for 9 from deep in 2003. And that's exactly what Jalen Brunson did from deep. 9 for 9. Huge performance from him. And he carried the load in this one. Obviously, he did. But even again, it was another game where we had 420 plus 4 people in double figures, and Grimes was right there. So our 3 guys, Barrett, Brunson, and Randall, all had 20 plus. Quickly had 10 points, and Grimes had 9. Grimes was 3 for 3. Or no, he was 3 for 6 from 3-point range. I thought he was better than that. But he was 3 for 6 from 3-point range. Got his shots. He had 7 shots, which I think that's right where he's going to be around. 7 to 8 shots a game, and quickly had 3 of 8. And so did Josh Hart, who had 6 points. But Josh Hart, a plus 34 in the box score. That just shows you, even if he doesn't score a ton of points, 6 points is what he scored. Even if he doesn't score a ton of points, he's gonna impact the game the right way. He's not gonna, if he's not scoring, he's not gonna impact it in a negative way. Well, he might if nobody else is scoring and he's not playing as much defense and doing what he does best. But most of the time, he's still going to impact the game positively, even if he isn't scoring a lot. And you see it here. He had the highest plus minus on the team and one of the lowest scores. And that is huge. And then, because when you look at it, Brunson, who had 50 points and set a career high and did it efficiently, he only missed 6 shots in this game. He was only a plus 7. So that doesn't make sense to me, first off. I don't know how they calculate that, but it's good for the Knicks because it shows that everybody gives you valuable minutes. Like you can see, obviously, Jalen Brunson impacted the win more than Josh Hart. But Josh Hart still provided an important piece. He does provide an important piece of this team and how they play, their play style, and how they win so many games. They're not so many games, but how they win all their games. Other news from this game, not really news, but just some other stuff I want to talk about. RJ Barrett was shooting well again. Didn't decide to be historically bad. 6 for 10 from the field. So it shows you any given night you can have an off day, and that's what happened in Utah. So although I thought we should have won that game, I'm not mad at it. I'm not too mad at it. Especially since we won this one. If we lost both of these games on the back-to-back, then I would have been more mad about losing in Utah. Because that's a team we're better than. And if we have an off night, so be it. It's going to happen. And as long as we stayed at 2-2, right where I had them this week, I'm okay with it. Because, I mean, when you're playing the Clippers, who have figured out how to play with James Harden, and when you're playing the Suns, who have the guys and are a better team on paper, then you're thinking that, because that's half your games for the week. Then you're thinking like, all right, if you stay at 500 for the week, you'll be fine. I thought we could have been 3-1 with the win over the Clippers, but it's fine. Or over the Suns, I thought we should have been after that game. But it didn't happen, and that's all right. You just got to keep moving forward. All right, some of the other stuff I want to talk about from that game is Kevin Durant. He was almost scoreless for the entirety of the first quarter. In the second quarter, he got really hot and he had 14 straight points, and he was just shooting the ball, shooting wide open corner threes. But other than that, I thought the Knicks defense was good. And then besides the missing the presence of Mitchell Robinson, who we've already seen it, that it's been hurting the Knicks, especially playing a guy like Zubac on the Clippers and Nurkic on the Suns, who are big and they could really protect the rim. And then and in Nurkic's case, he could score the ball. But It was good. This was a tight game down the stretch. Like Jalen Brunson came in with around 7.5 minutes to go, and the Knicks were only up 4. And before and right at the start of the fourth quarter, the Knicks were losing this game by 4. So the bench really got them the lead and do what they do best. When the Knicks get down, the bench saves them every single time. And that is what makes this team as good as it is. If this team doesn't have as good as a bench as it does, this is a 500, maybe worse than 500 team. Because like Josh Hart, if he's not here, we would have lost so many more games. And then quickly, if we don't have his scoring, we would have lost a ton more games. And Dante's finding his way just fine in the starting lineup, and so is Grimes on the bench. So I think that this bench, I think it's the best bench in the league. I don't know who has a better bench, if there is one. If there is, tell me. Message me on Instagram. I'm at the sportspod_Ben, and if you're watching on YouTube, comment on this video. Who's the best bench in the NBA? I think it's the Knicks, and I don't even think it's that close. But this one, it wasn't the bench. It was all Jalen Brunson in the second half. In the first half, he hadn't even taken. He didn't really take over. Like I didn't feel that he was very dominant in that in the first half. But then when the second half started, and really only halfway through the third quarter was when he took over and when he started to erupt. So Jalen Brunson the other night became the first person since Michael Jordan and only the second person in NBA history to have 50+ points, 9 assists, 9 or more assists, 5 rebounds, and 5 or more steals. Like that's huge. Jordan's in the GOAT conversation. If he's not the GOAT, he's the second of all greatest of all time. I can't even tell right now. It's too tight. LeBron needs to put some space between him and Jordan for me to think that it's him. But for Brunson to be in that company, and that's not even one of these like crazy stats where it's like first person to score 5 points when it's partly cloudy and 15 degrees outside, while you're also playing in an arena that's called a forum. Like it's not one of those crazy stats. Like that's just a normal stat line. And so the things that I've seen, the history that Jalen Brunson made last night, obviously that stat that I just read. And then the other stat that I mentioned before, best Knicks shooting night since Larry Johnson or Latrell Sprewell in 2003. So that was a huge night. Knicks Fan TV was calling it the best performance in a decade by the Knicks. And I mean, he might be the best player that the Knicks have had in this century. If he continues this way, he might leave a bigger legacy than Melo did as a Knick, than Stoudemire did as a Knick, and maybe Latrell Sprewell. And I'm saying Carmelo Anthony because Melo didn't win at all. He won one playoff series, and same with Stoudemire. He didn't really do anything in New York. Like obviously he was a great player. He had a great career, but as a Knick, he didn't do much to impact them. And I just think that Brunson in the 2 seasons that he's been here, the last season, he took a team that finished under 500 the year before and took them to the second round of the playoffs with Julius Randle. And then this year, he makes Knicks history by having this great, amazing shooting game. And it's looking like they're going to be a similar team that they were last year. So if he continues this for another 2 years and then the Knicks re-sign him and he continues that, then he could potentially be the greatest Knick of this century. And I'm here. I'm a supporter of him. Last year was the first year that I followed the Knicks this closely. I've always been a big Knicks fan, but last year was really the year that I became a bigger Knicks fan, and it was the first year of Brunson, obviously. So, it makes me a huge Brunson fan because that's my guy. That's my guy now. And I think Leon Rose knocked it out of the park with who he decided to sign. I still wanted him to trade for Donovan Mitchell, and people are saying that he might become available. Because if you look at the NBA standings right now, the Cavs are 14-12. So they're only one game back behind the Knicks in the loss column. But they're also in the 8th seed. And it's still really early, although we are over a quarter of the way through the season. But people are saying that the Cavs might be looking to trade him at some point. And I think the Knicks would be willing to pounce on that opportunity if one presented itself. Because Donovan Mitchell, we tried trading for him last summer, and he thought he was going to New York. I heard on a podcast that he was already building a house in New York, and he was fully expecting to go to New York, and then the news broke that he was going to Cleveland, and then we knocked him out of the playoffs last year. His dad was a Met. His dad was a Met. See, the Mets met with Yamamoto again. I'm gonna talk about that a little bit later. And the Knicks win by 17 points, 139-122, behind an electric performance from Jalen Brunson, where he did not miss a shot in the second half. All right, so moving on to the game against the Clippers, in the back half of the back-to-back, where the energy's always down. The production's always down. It's never as good of a game and never as clean of a game. And the Knicks showed it. They had 10 turnovers in the game against the Clippers. And actually, they had more in the game against the Suns. They had 11 against the Suns. But it wasn't as good. You look at the starting five, all minus. Randall, minus 20. Sims, minus 13. Brunson, minus 25. DiVincenzo, minus 22. And Barrett, minus 30. So it just wasn't as good of a game. And that's what you would expect from these guys. Because they just played the night before. And they played a fast-paced game. And this is the last thing I'm going to say about the Suns game. And I mentioned it in the last episode after the Jazz game. They set the pace in this one. They didn't play to the Suns' speed. They went out and they scored 139 points. They didn't stay around the 122 mark. They went out and they got as many points as they could. They didn't slow the ball down. They kept pushing the entire game, which was really good for the Knicks. But for this one, they just couldn't keep it up. 2 games in a row. They let the Clippers go on a 20-5 run to end the first half, which is rough in any situation, but especially at the end of the first half. You're going into the fourth half in 2 nights, and it's extremely hard to get energy from that alone, especially when it's the end when it's the end of the game and you're down by 10 points or 11 points. It was just I didn't expect it to be as good, and it wasn't as good. That's that. You got to move on. You got the Lakers coming up. That's going to be another big game. Losing Mitchell Robinson, we've already felt the presence. We were the second best defensive rated team in the NBA, and as soon as he's gone, we've already dropped down to the 12th best, maybe the 18th. So losing him has been absolutely ginormous. Mitch, come back can you come back pretty fast? We're gonna need you. Sims got postered by you of Zubac, and it was like it was a real poster. It was bad, and it was in the first quarter. It was it was big time. I wish I knew how to put clips of the game into these video podcasts. I'm gonna try to do that, and I'll try to put a video of the poster right here, right now, because it was a rough one from Zubac. But anyway, with the game, 144 to 120 beat the Knicks. That's gonna do it for the basketball portion of this video. But I do want to mention some Yamamoto talk because he did meet with the Mets a second time. He also met with the Yankees, which is the destination I do not want him to go the second most. The Dodgers being the first and the Braves being the third. Only because that would just make me so mad. I can't deal with the Dodgers signing yet another superstar. They've already done it so much this offseason. And with the Yankees, I'm a Mets fan. And most of my friends are Yankees fans, and it's just gonna be rough if he signs there. And then the Braves, they've owned us the last couple of years, and I just I would hate it if they get another top pitcher to go along with that lineup that hits so many home runs, and they can get on base too, unlike the Yankees who can only hit home runs. So I think the Mets are right in the thick of it in terms of getting Yamamoto. I think it's the Mets, Dodgers, or Yankees that are going to get him. And my official prediction is the Mets. I think Steve Cohen's going to have the highest offer and coming over from Japan. I think Yamamoto, he wants to play with another Japanese player, and we have one in Kodai Senga. And I think he'll succeed in the big market and bright lights of New York. All right, that's going to do it for this episode. I'm your host, Ben Ballion, and this was the Sports Pod.